What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in. Anna G here from Crafty Bruja. Today, we're going to go over the process of putting your own design on a blank shirt by creating a stencil using freezer paper and a Silhouette Cameo 2 cutting machine. What you'll need for this project is a Silhouette Cameo 2 cutting machine. You'll also need freezer paper. You can get this at any grocery store. I got this from Target. It comes in a box that looks just like this. You'll also need paint. I use this Tulip brand. I don't know if this is still around. I got it from Michael's a long time ago. But make sure you get the soft kind of paint for fabric, not the kind that is like puff paint. You'll also need like a foam brush and other small brushes to paint on the paint with. Right? And then you'll need a cutting mat for your cutting machine. You'll also need a t-shirt, an iron, and an ironing board. Some optional things that you'll need too are a rotary cutter, a quilter's ruler, and a cutting mat. This is to cut the freezer paper. It makes it super easier when you cut freezer paper. So that's what you'll need. But first, to get started, we'll need to go into how to design. So we'll go into computer stuff. So the first thing you want to make sure is that you have your design and it's all in black. It needs to be in black so that the tracing tool in Silhouette Studio can identify your design and create the cutting lines. I'm choosing this design, which I posted in my Instagram a couple months ago now. It was to show my solidarity with Black Lives Matter. I wanted to experiment with creating line drawings in Illustrator. I loved how this one turned out, and one of my best friends, Terry, she gave me the idea to put it on a shirt. So here we are. So whatever you decide to design or make or, whatever graphic you're choosing, you have to make sure it's all in black, right? But you can save the file as an SVG file like this one is here, a PNG file, or a JPEG. Any of those you can open in Silhouette Studio. You have your design all saved. Then you want to move into Silhouette. So once your file is open in Silhouette, you'll get to this first design page settings page. And I like to keep my page size 12 by 12, so I cut out a sheet of freezer paper at a 12 by 12 size because that's just the size of the cutting mat. The next thing you want to do is adjust the size of your graphic if you want to make it bigger or smaller. I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller just because I'm doing this on a crop top, so I don't have a lot of space. Okay, and then you can place it back in the middle there. And then we're ready to trace and make sure we get all the cut lines. So click on the trace tool over here, then select trace area, and then click and drag a rectangle or square over your design to make sure you cover the whole design. And then it should highlight in yellow. And then you can play with the filters here on the right side to make sure that all your design is highlighted in yellow. And once it's all highlighted in yellow, you can go ahead and click the trace. And now you'll see that there's red lines surrounding your design, and those are going to be your cutting lines. So I move that off, take my original design, delete it, delete my original, or move my regular cutting line design now. And the next thing I want to do is make sure that none of the lines are too thin. So this one is looking a little thin right here. So I just want to make it a little bit thicker by just moving down a couple of these points right here. These are points to help with your design, like little points that create all of the different curves in here. Once you're done making sure that your cutting lines are how you want them to be, then you want to go ahead and set up your cut settings. Make sure you're on standard and you have a cut, not just cut edge, just do cut. And then for your material type, I already have a user-defined freezer paper. If you don't have that, you might want to add it. Freezer paper here, and you can add it by clicking this little plus sign here. And let me scroll down to show you my settings. Since freezer paper is super thin, I usually keep my ratchet blade at a 1 with a speed of 1 and a thickness of 19. But before we go ahead and send it to the machine, let me show you how to place the freezer paper onto your cutting mat. Okay, so there's two sides to freezer paper. There is a shiny side and there is the matte side. When you put this on your cutting mat, you want to make sure you want to go shiny side down first. So just line it up with your cutting mat, smooth it out, put if it doesn't fit perfectly or if your cutting's a little off, don't worry about it. You know where your design is. You don't need to actually have this full sheet. So just smooth it out like this and you are good. Now we're ready to load this into the machine and cut. Okay, so before you actually load your cutting mat into the machine, you want to make sure that your blade is set to the right length. Mine is already set to 1. So I don't need to turn it in here. So that's good. I can put it back, load it up, and then I can line up my cutting mat with the lines and arrows, and then click on load cut mat. All right, and then now I am ready to send it to Silhouette. And just go ahead and start. Okay, so once it's done cutting, unload the cutting mat, and then you'll see these little lines and creases in there. You just want to start peeling off your freezer paper. I start from like the different corners, and then I start to work my way in. And with freezer paper, you have to be super careful just because it can rip super easily. So just be really careful when you're peeling it off. You don't want anything to rip because then you don't have to put anything over again. If you do have a small rips are okay because then you can you're gonna iron it back on. So some of those are okay. And some parts might have a little bit trouble lifting. So you just want to be really careful there. Okay, so it looks like we got this main piece off. And you might have some of these like stray pieces like that want to come along, but you want to clean out your piece where you're actually going to paint. So just take off these little things. Some of these might get a little stuck. You can either tear them off super carefully or you can take an X-Acto knife to them. These ones I might take an X-Acto knife to, so the line is still a clean cut. So I will use my X-Acto knife right onto the cutting mat since it's already pretty used to being cut. I just do not put too much pressure on it because I don't want to make a big old mess or a big old cut line on my cutting mat. So you just want to go over it. Most of the lines are already there. You'll just see some places where it's like, okay, I need to cut a little bit deeper there. There you go. So then that piece is out. This piece, so it's only right here. But you want to kind of do this for all your pieces. Now this is all ready to go. And we can just go ahead and put this on the iron. Press this onto the t-shirt. Okay, so next you want to iron on your design onto your shirt. So you want to find wherever you want to place that at. Put your freezer paper with your design, aka your stencil, down on your shirt, shiny side down. And once you have a placement that you like, you can start pressing with your iron. Put your iron at medium heat, like the wool is. I guess it depends on your t-shirt. And then you just want to press. I like to turn the heat up a little bit. But you just start pressing it into place. Don't drag the iron too much because you don't want to ruin anything in your design. And you just want to make sure you keep pressing and then press down all the corners, all the edges, and make sure every part of your design is pressed down because you don't want it to have a lot of chances to bleed. It may still bleed when you're painting, but if you keep pressing it, you'll have a better chance. You don't need to use any water or anything. And there you go. Again, I did the white on white thing like I did with the vinyl, but you can see that this is where the design is, and I'm going to be painting that in black. Okay, so what I did was put my paint on a freezer paper, like an extra piece of freezer paper. I use it as a palette. Now I'm going to take my foam brush, dip it in my paint, and then I'm going to start just dabbing and dragging along my stencil. I like to do like a little dab technique, like a sponge. And this one's super easy because there's like, it's only lines. So there's nothing, like not a lot to fill in. One thing I forgot to mention before I started painting is to make sure you put a newspaper in between your shirt and the inside so that you don't get paint on the other side because it will bleed through. So once you have it all filled in, you just want to double check. You can do a second layer if you want to, but you can let the first layer dry and then you can add the second layer. I try not to add more than 3 layers just because it gets a little too thick. I find that sometimes 1 layer is enough. It really depends on the look you're going for. If you want to look a little bit more faded, then you only want to do 1 layer. 2 layers is kind of like a good solid medium right there. All right, I think I got everything. And then you just let it dry. We'll see how it turns out. The fun part is the reveal at the end. Okay, so the last step, and this is my little nephew here, Ari. He's making a star appearance. The last step of this project is to just peel off the printer paper. So it should be pretty easy. I go from the corners first. And you don't have to be really gentle with this. You can just peel it off. Just make sure you get all the pieces off. All right. And there we have it. Finished shirt. Actually, I'm gonna paint in this little loopy loops, in some of these loopy loops, but yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Ta-da! Here's me in the final product, posing in my backyard. Thanks you guys for watching this video tutorial. I hope you liked it. Please subscribe to my channel and check me out on my website.